Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're opening a really fascinating stack of sources that I think challenge our fundamental ideas of wealth and power.
I really do.
We're going to be diving into the story of a figure so rich, his name almost feels like a myth or, a historical exaggeration. We're talking about Mansa Musa.
The 14th century emperor of Mali.
Exactly.
Mm.
A man whose personal fortune was so huge that historians today they call it indescribable or essentially infinite. And you should forget modern billionaires.
Absolutely. This is a completely different scale.
This man's spending had geopolitical consequences that lasted for more than a decade.
Right. And our mission today is to go beyond just the eye-popping numbers. I want to understand the mechanisms that actually created this wealth, how he used it, and really how one man's pilgrimage in 1324 AD just completely changed how the world saw West Africa.
They put it on the map, literally. Okay, so before we get into that epic journey, we should probably set the scene a little, get the pronunciations right. We're talking about Mansa Musa. That's M-A-N-S-A, M-O-S-A,
Where Mansa is his title, it means King of Kings.
the ruler of the Mali Empire, or M-A-H Lee. But the big question is, how? I mean, how did anyone amass a fortune that big?
Well, it wasn't stocks or tech. It was all about commodities, specifically gold and salt, and having absolute control over them.
Location, location, location.
Precisely. The Mali Empire sat right at the crossroads of the trans-Saharan trade routes. They controlled these huge gold fields in a region called Wangara. Gold was, it was just unbelievably plentiful there.
But gold is only half the equation, right?
Yeah.
The sources talk about this fascinating balance of trade.
Yes, exactly. The people who lived near the gold mines, they had all the gold they could ever want, but what they desperately needed was salt.
Salt for preserving food, for health, especially in that climate, it was essential.
It was life. So you had this perfect symbiotic relationship, what we call the salt for gold trade. The North would send these huge blocks of salt south.
And sometimes the salt was actually worth more than the gold, pound for pound.
In certain regions, absolutely. And Mansa Musa's administration was clever enough to tax everything. Every single ounce of gold and salt that moved through his empire, he got a piece of it.
So that constant flow created a tax base that
Yeah.
it's hard to even comprehend.
It was the engine that gave him that infinite wealth.
Okay, so that sets the stage. It's 1324. Musa is ruling this massive, stable, incredibly wealthy empire from his capital, Niani, that's N-Y-N-E. And as a devout Muslim, he decides it's time to fulfill his religious duty.
The Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca.
But this was not your average trip.
No, this was so much more than a pilgrimage. It was a statement, a political, military, and an economic statement all rolled into one. Musa had to know that the world, especially the Mediterranean powers like Egypt, had no real idea of the scale of his empire.
So this is his chance to show them.
The perfect opportunity. He was going to travel right through the heart of their world and put his power on full display.
And when we say put his power on display, the descriptions of his caravan are just mind-boggling. He didn't travel light.
He basically mobilized an entire city to cross the Sahara, that Sahara Desert.
Give us the visual. What did this actually look like?
The accounts are astounding. It was this moving spectacle. We're talking about 60,000 people traveling together.
60,000.
Yeah. Just to help you picture that, that's the size of a major modern football stadium. An entire stadium of people all walking together through the desert.
Dressed in, what, Persian silk?
The finest Persian silk and brocade. And that's just the people. Then you have the gold.
Right, the actual cargo.
The sources say he brought 12,000 slaves, and every single one of them was carrying a heavy staff made of pure, solid gold.
And then the camels.
Then the camels. 80 camels, each one loaded with 300 pounds of gold dust.
Wow. Let's just pause on that. 300 pounds per camel.
If you do the math, it's 24,000 pounds of gold. Roughly 12 metric tons of gold just moving across the sand. The reports say the ground literally shook when they moved.
The logistics alone are staggering. How do you feed and water 60,000 people on a journey that long? It says so much about how well organized the Mali Empire must have been.
It really does. And his strategic mind was always working, even with his faith. The sources note that every Friday, no matter where this massive caravan stopped, he paid for a new mosque to be built.
Every single Friday.
Every Friday. And you have to see that as more than just piety. That's infrastructure. It's him leaving a permanent mark signaling the stability and reach of his empire along the entire route.
Incredible. But the real shockwave, the moment that truly changed history, wasn't in the desert. It was when he arrived in Cairo.
Yes. Cairo at that time was the hub of the Mediterranean trading world. a very sophisticated, very established economy. And when Mansa Musa showed up, his actions went from generous to, well, to what we might call unintentional economic warfare.
He started giving gold away.
Giving it away is an understatement. He was showering the city with it. He gave it to officials, to merchants, to the poor in the streets. He was just flooding the market.
He was trying to be charitable, to show his wealth and piety.
Exactly. But he didn't account for what happens when you inject tons of pure gold into a closed economic system overnight.
The value of gold tanks.
It plummeted. The supply suddenly overwhelmed the demand. The value of their currency, the gold dinar, crashed in Cairo, but also in Mecca and Medina. And this wasn't, a minor blip.
No, the sources say the effect lasted for 12 years.
12 years. Think about that. For over a decade, the economies of these major world cities suffered from runaway inflation, all because of one man's visit.
That's the part that is just so hard to wrap your head around. If he's the strategic genius building mosques and running a complex empire, how does he make such a huge miscalculation?
Right.
Was it really an accident?
That is the great historical debate, isn't it? It seems unlikely a ruler that sophisticated was completely naive.
So it could have been a power play.
It might have been. A way of saying, my kingdom is so rich, I can wreck your entire economy with my charity. And whether intentional or not, it had that exact effect. He is the only person in documented history to single-handedly destabilize the economy of the entire Mediterranean just by being generous.
And we know this isn't just a story cast down by the griots, the West African storytellers who are pronounced G-R-E-Os.
No, this is all corroborated by eyewitnesses in Cairo. It's in the historical texts from the Mamluk Sultanate at the time.
And as soon as that happened, Europe's perception of Africa, it just snapped into a new focus.
Instantly. Before this, they saw sub-Saharan Africa as this distant, maybe primitive place. Suddenly, they realized there was an unbelievably powerful and wealthy kingdom to the south.
And that leads directly to the maps. The European reaction is so interesting. About 1375, only about 50 years later, he's on the most important map of the era, the Catalan Atlas.
And that inclusion is revolutionary. He's not some minor figure in the corner. He is sitting right in the middle of West Africa on a golden throne, holding this huge gold nugget. He's dominating the map.
And that image just fueled this European obsession with finding a city of gold for centuries.
It absolutely did. Timbuktu became this legendary, mythical place in the European imagination.
But here's the pivot. The true wealth he brought back from the Hajj wasn't gold. It was something far more valuable.
It was human capital. Musa understood that lasting power comes from more than just shiny metal. On his way home, he actively recruited scholars, architects, poets, legal experts. He was performing a strategic knowledge transfer.
He was building a nation.
Exactly. And he brought them all back to Timbuktu, that's Timbuktu-O, and transformed it from an important trading post into really the intellectual capital of the world.
Let's talk about that transformation first, the architecture.
He commissioned this brilliant architect, Abu Ishaq Saheli, to build these monumental structures like the famous Jingaribur Mosque. Jingaribur. And what's amazing is that it's still standing today.
Built from mud bricks and wood.
Yes, these incredible organic materials. It's a testament to this incredible early African architectural genius.
But even more important than the buildings was the institution he founded, the University of Sankore.
Right. And this is where we shift completely from the wealth of gold to the wealth of the mind.
Sankore was. It was a game changer.
It was completely revolutionary. You have to remember, this is the 14th century. A lot of Europe is still dealing with limited literacy. And here in Timbuktu, he establishes one of the largest libraries in the world. We're talking hundreds of thousands of manuscripts.
And not just religious texts?
No, not at all. The curriculum was incredibly broad. Of course, they taught Islamic law and theology, but they were also teaching astronomy, mathematics, medicine. It became the medieval equivalent of Oxford or Paris.
So the trade routes weren't just for salt and gold anymore.
No, they were trading in books, in scholars, in ideas. Knowledge became the most valuable commodity.
So when you look at his entire reign, the trade routes, the Hajj, that economic shockwave, and then this final pivot to education, what's the real takeaway about the Mali Empire?
I think the griots, the oral historians, really give us the best answer. They always said that the true wealth of Mali wasn't the gold. It was the system.
The administration.
The complex administration, the safety on the roads, the high value they placed on learning, the stability. He used his wealth to build things that would last, not just to buy things.
It's just an incredible story. of African power and sovereignty. And it represents this golden age that, barely gets a mention in a lot of standard history books.
It really does. It shows that power isn't just about how much you have, but about how you choose to use it.
And that brings us right back to that core philosophical idea, that saying from the Griots.
Wealth is like the wind, but knowledge is like the rock. That gold he spent in Cairo, its value inflated away, it blew away on the wind. But the university he founded, the manuscripts they copied, the mosques that still stand,
Those are the rocks.
those are the rocks, they remain.
It's such an enduring image. We so often measure wealth today by, what a person hoards or their net worth on a spreadsheet.